Hey, everybody, live from the On Target Podcast Studios in beautiful Maitland/Orlando, Florida. It's the Tom Squared Tech Talk Podcast with your hosts, Tom Jelnick and Tom Craig. Hey, all 9 of you. Welcome back to the Tom Squared Tech Talk Podcast. I'm Tom.
Tom 2 here.
There's 2 Toms.
I tell you, you can't get any better than a Tom. Look at
No,
GPSs.
you know what you could? You could have a 3rd Tom in here. It'd be a trifecta Tom.
I don't think that a room could handle so much brilliance.
Do you think would the room collide? Would it blow up? Would it implode? What would happen, Tom?
I think Doc Brown tried to give us some insight as to what could happen on the universe folding in on itself. But,
Wow.
I was way over my head.
My mind is blown already. We haven't even started.
I tell you, this is going to be a good one.
What the heck are we talking about today, Tom?
You know, we're going back to Reagan on this one. And,
The Gipper.
Yes, we are. Going to trust but verify.
Trust but verify.
That's right. Yep.
Do you mean like trust but verify with your in-laws?
You know, there is no trust. You just verification with the in-laws.
So
it's a constant verification.
You just kind of
process.
verify that they exist, or
No, you've got to verify yourself to them. It's kind of like a credit card agency where you've got to constantly make sure that your credit score is high enough. For
Sure.
the in-laws, there's an in-law score.
Yeah, and I find that my in-laws are all about the credit cards, especially asking me for those last 3 digits. I don't know where they're going with this, and I don't know where we're going with this either. Tom, do you?
I do. It's not the in-laws we have to worry about it, but it's what the Gipper was talking about, and the Russians and all the other shady characters on the interwebs.
The interwebs.
Yep, that we've got to look out for. So we wanted to just touch base and make sure that everybody's doing what they should to do that trust but verify process.
So, Tom, are you talking about trusting but verifying that my computer exists? What are we talking about here? Break it down
that's a
for
good
me. Break
place
it down
to
like a
start.
fraction for me, Tom.
You've got it. So let's look at software is one thing that we want to make sure is being updated.
Sure.
And a lot of times we trust that that's happening in the background, and we just assume that things are as they should be, but we never really take a look and verify that these things are updating. Same thing with hardware. You know, we just trust that that updates happen because the computer was set up, but little do we know that there's firmware updates. Firmware. Now, there's a good
That
word
is a
for you.
fun word. But you said one word, too, that intrigued me, and I really wanted to interrupt you, but I actually exercised self-restraint for a first. You said assume, Tom. You know what happens when you assume?
Absolutely,
What
Tom.
happens? What happens?
Advanced System Solutions, we say you make an ass out of you and me.
I love it. So
Yeah.
never assume that your computer is actually indeed being updated, right?
That's right. And especially the hardware. As we know from one of our more recent podcasts, when we were discussing how a lot of the wireless access points that were put out into the commercial marketplace were deemed to be unfit for safe traversing on the interwebs.
Traversing. That was a fine word to use there, sir.
Phew, I dug deep on that one, let me tell you. But no, we want to make sure that that hardware, in the same way that those wireless access points weren't being updated, we want to make sure that our computers are being updated, Tom.
Why is that so important?
Awfully important because of when there's updates that are pushed out, those updates are being pushed out for a reason. They include patches for security holes that have already been verified. Kind of like, Apple's probably going to have to put one out here soon. That's
doubt
a good
it.
place to go.
Doubtful.
You know?
Not an Apple.
Yeah, I think some 16-year-old kids might tend to argue that one there, Tom.
All right, go ahead. Tell the world what happened to Apple.
Great story this week coming
Not
out
that
of,
great.
1 year that kid was traversing the Apple intranet, I should say.
Inside the Apple headquarters, right?
Inside their headquarters, bouncing all around and saving all his data to the hacky hack folder on his local computer. So just amazing that that Apple takes your security so seriously, and it's very
ouch.
refreshing.
You're killing me, Tom.
but,
Are you telling me that Microsoft has never been kind of infiltrated, Tom? I mean, like I probably
Not
happened,
like that, Tom.
Probably happened in the last 15 seconds we're having this discussion. In fact,
Not like that. If it did happen, it happened for 15 seconds, not an entire year. Just amazing. Just amazing. How does that even happen? That's a whole different podcast there, Tom. We really want to talk about the holes that are found found by people like this 16-year-old kid. What happens is hackers, or there's a number of different words that they go by, or terms, but we'll just refer to them as hackers. They realize holes within a platform or a piece of hardware, and eventually those discoveries get pushed up to the manufacturers.
Sure.
And at that point, the manufacturers go ahead and they release an update to the software or an update to the firmware for the hardware. And we want to make sure that those are being patched and up to date. So if you don't have some software that's monitoring and making sure all that's happening to within your house or your business, you should probably set aside some time monthly, at the very least, to go through and check your computer.
Or there's actually companies like yours, Advanced System Solutions. Do you see that plug there? That was such a smooth transition right into that. But companies like yours actually sit there and monitor these kinds of things for companies and for homeowners and residential, right? I mean,
that's right. We provide cloud-based security solutions which go in and they look at all of those areas, the firmware, the various pieces of hardware, all the pieces of software, not just the operating system, but the Adobe products and Office products. It goes through and it makes sure that all of those are on the most recent release. So it does a quick inventory of your computer and then matches up those version numbers with what we know to be the most current.
Does it also keep track of the in-laws too, Tom?
If only it did that, I wouldn't have to keep such a close eye on the front door.
Yeah, that's a good call. But
Yeah.
your system, you're just saying that's not a service you provide, right? Is that what I hear you saying?
That's if that was a service I could provide, Tom, we'd both be millionaires.
You'd share the wealth, would you,
I
Tom?
tell you, you know what? That Apple Find Me, Follow Me might be a good.
I love it.
How about for the in-laws? Find me, stay in front of me.
Love it.
Steer clear of me. Well, let's digress a bit from
little
that.
bit.
And but no, yes, there is software that can go out there and verify that everything that you're trusting is actually happening. But if you don't have that, then it's best that you do as Reagan said and trust but verify that trust.
You said but.
I don't even know where to go with that, Tom.
I hate to be the butt of that joke, Tom, but let's move right along.
Well, it's like we say at Advanced System Solutions when we talk about being the butt of jokes. We stand behind our products.
I love it. And it was me that started making fun of your name. Well, it wasn't just me. It was Dusty, right?
It was.
Our mutual friend Dusty had called out that Advanced System Solutions actually says ass. So I just love to point it out. But it's assy if we're being honest.
If
right?
we're being technical about it.
Yeah.
But you know what? As I say, we don't care what you call us as long as you don't call us late for dinner.
That's right. And you were never late for dinner, Tom.
Never late for a meal yet, Tom, in all these 40 plus years.
40 plus?
Yeah, we steer close to 40. We don't say just short of 50 at this point. We say 40 plus.
North of 40?
Yeah, kind of like the waistline. We don't just say it's not a 32 waistline anymore.
Okay, very understood. Yeah. I know exactly what you're trying to say.
Yep.
So we have updates, we have monitoring, firmware you mentioned, certainly making certain that our hardware is actually up to date too. And that kind of intrigued me a bit because, well, I don't have to do that with the Mac because it's got superior hardware in it. But certainly with a PC and all of its, vulnerabilities, shall we call them, you want to make sure that maybe the drivers are all current for the firmware and all that kind of geek stuff. I geeked that a little bit, but tell me more about how inferior the PC is to a Mac when it comes to hardware.
Well, it's you're going to find the PC in the workplace a lot more often, Tom, because as we discussed earlier, you won't the common thread between a Zebra and a Mac is that both of them aren't fit for the workplace. So unless of course you run a zoo. So
could you have a zoo and run it with Macs? Is that what you're saying?
Only if they're the appropriate color. You don't want to go with red, Tom. The animals are going to freak out on that one.
You're right.
And so it's good that Apple bases their profits and their forecasting on their future color of models. So that's really good. They can plan for that for you.
So what I hear you saying, Tom, is that within the On Target offices here, and we're obviously coming to you from the On Target podcasting studios, and what's actually making this podcast happen, staring at me, is a what, Tom? What is that? What's that? What's this shiny object?
This would be a lovely mixing board.
No,
made
not
by
that.
Samson
Not
Mixpad.
that.
Oh.
The computer behind it is a
Oh, look at that. I just thought that was a monitor.
It's an iMac.
Well, you see, that's about as functional as a monitor, Tom.
Oh, but creating amazing podcasts.
That's absolutely right. And, that's another name for the Mac laptop would be a Game Boy at that point. Because, yes, these are great for recordings and video and photos and
Pretty much anything you need
nothing
to do to
better.
run a business today.
Yeah, at 4 times the cost of a PC with these same specifications and these same capabilities. Absolutely, you're right, Tom. You are absolutely
But
right.
you know what the neat thing is, though, Tom? All the time that I don't have to waste talking to an IT company to come in and fix them every day.
That's just because they're kind of disposable. Once they're used up, you just throw them away and
I
you buy
don't
another.
think so. Wow.
There is no upgrade.
This is
to a
getting
Mac.
ugly. This is going to get ugly. I think.
I
Okay,
thought we were saving this for a different podcast.
let's get back on target.
Okay.
All right.
I like
so
that.
I took us there. I apologize, but so clearly our Mac and PC debate will continue, and probably will never end.
The
So-
showdown in O-Town, or the Debateland and Maitland.
Oh, I love the Debateland and Maitland. That was awesome.
Yeah, we might have to
nice.
come up with one of those. That'll be the title of that podcast.
So, well, in all seriousness, one thing I really do want to bring up: updates and Windows software updates. And tell me about antivirus updates, because I understand, and it can be annoying, right? Because I did used to work with PCs, and I understand how important it is to keep that antivirus software up to date. And sometimes it can be so kind of in our way and in our face. Like we're sitting here trying to work, and oh my gosh, Norton has to do X, or Symantec or whoever you have has to go update the antivirus files. Why is that? Why does it update so frequently?
Well, with the antivirus especially, as new viruses are discovered out there, they have new definitions that come out for those viruses. So we want to make sure that when those definitions are released, that we have those on our computer. That way the antivirus software knows exactly what it's looking for and what it needs to tag as a bad application.
Sure.
So, and it's not just, all joking aside, it's not just PCs. Apple has the same.
Oh, it does. It does.
You have to go in and update that. I mean, if we really want to get technical, and we'll hit on this later, our TVs also needed to be updated.
Sure.
That's the same thing. Security holes are realized, and everything that's plugged into the internet at some point, usually, security holes and flaws are discovered, and we want to make sure that those are patched, because ultimately those are providing a backdoor for people to come into our computer and look at the other information that might be on there that we don't want them to see, such as key logging, seeing what we're typing into the internet, maybe seeing the credit card information that we're entering in as we purchase things online. So we want to make sure that we're keeping ourselves and our computer systems as safe as possible.
And really the way to do that is to let these antivirus systems do their job, because I know for a fact that cyber thugs are out there every single night trying to figure out how to hack X and how to hack a Mac and how to get into Apple's infrastructure.
Yeah.
This stuff is happening nonstop. So these developers and software companies and hardware providers have to really stay vigilant and stay on top of, and hopefully be proactive on top of, keeping machines safe, because, one little virus can wreak such havoc. And to your point, a keylogger, it could be, somebody you don't even realize it is jacking everything you're typing into the internet and just piping it right into their own, building a case against you or using your data against you or building a profile.
Yep, and it's important we stay vigilant, but it can be hard when you get that patch, that frustration of being asked too many times, is this up to date? Is that up to date? And we become very complacent in saying update later, and we'll think about that
Right.
later. But as you and I were talking about earlier, there are some viruses that will actually disable your antivirus.
Which is terrible, and it's actually it has happened to me on a PC, where the machine will not let you update your antivirus because it says it's not activated. So what happened is, gotten a virus, goes in and finds all of your antivirus files and screws them up so that they can't actually prevent the virus, and you can't actually get the antidote for the virus.
Yep.
And a lot of times that's a hacker wanting to hold your computer hostage. They're going to give you a phone number to call, and then all of a sudden they're going to save the day before. You've got to give them a healthy ransom.
Yep, that's usually the case. So that's where the Trust but Verify comes into play. Let's open up that antivirus on a monthly basis. Set aside some time every month to look at your antivirus, to look at your operating system, be it Windows or Mac, and make sure that you're on the most recent update. For those of you working out there and in the workforce, you won't have to check Macs because they're not in the workforce. But for those,
But they should be.
but for the rest of us, we want to make sure that we're hitting on all of that, and straight across the board. It comes down to even printers, wireless printers. We want to make sure that we're on the most recent update out there because that wireless capability could allow somebody else onto the network that isn't supposed to be there.
No, that's a great point. So that really important for folks to hear is that just because, what damage can they do to my printer? It's not the printer that they're after. They're using the printer as an exploit to get into the rest of the network because you're obviously your printer's connected to the wireless network.
Yep.
And it's a wormhole.
It's the same thing that we fear in other smart devices and the Internet of Things.
Right.
Such as the Alexa, the coffee maker, the refrigerator, the oven, anything that's plugged into the internet. It's a concern for us because is that a potential hole into your network?
Right. And you got to make sure you keep that damn coffee maker updated with the latest software.
I tell you, or you're going to wake up to an empty pot.
That sucks.
Yes.
I have no time for an empty pot, Tom.
I tell you, nobody does, and straight across the board, and especially when it comes to technology. We want to make sure that our cup is overflowing.
Oh, I see what you did there. That's just damn terrifying to think that you could wake up to an empty pot.
For somebody like yourself, I completely understand that.
Yeah, I run on it.
Yeah. Coffee is your mission.
It is.
But no, and for me, the mission is to make sure that our listeners have everybody on the outside of the network where they're supposed to be, and you and I can help do that, Tom.
Absolutely, we can.
Yep, you're a guy who definitely stays on top of the different security postures across technologies. So that's always impressive.
Well, thank you. You've taught me well, but certainly you have so much more experience and practice with it. With all the PCs that you run. So my office is Mac driven. I mean, I can get a little rusty, but I know that you've really got all the wisdom and experience to bring to the table.
So if anybody can hear that out there, that flapping is actually me waving the white flag at this point. I give in the Apple is a security product. How could they not be at $1 trillion company? But
no, but they've been hacked before too.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of celebrities who've actually had their iTunes account or their Apple ID jacked where they've stolen photos and stuff. So yeah, we joke, but certainly you do have to be vigilant and keep the software up to date on your Mac too. The Mac will actually tell you, hey, I got an update for you. You want to do it today? You want to do it in an hour? You want to do it 6 years from now? Yeah. It kind of lets you be in charge of that, but I definitely encourage Mac users, just like I would PC users, to make sure that they keep that software up to date because you never know, guys.
Absolutely. And and for the business owners out there, we talked about, individuals going in and trusting but verifying that these things are happening. For businesses, it's your policies and procedures as well. You should have those in place to make sure that this stuff is happening.
Well, break that down for me, Tom. Like I understand what you're saying, but a business owner, give me an example of a good policy that should be in place that should be revisited pretty frequently when it comes to using the computers at work.
Absolutely. Well, one of those would be how you're going to check your software and your patching. So your policy would contain all of the current software that you're utilizing within your company. And that policy would dictate that you check those monthly, bi-monthly, whatever the schedule is. The procedures are what you're going to keep up to date as to how you're actually going to perform those tasks.
Okay.
So some companies, they have procedures on their customer relationship software on how new customers are to be entered into the system. They'd like to see the following information in the following areas. So those procedures are spelled out. As software changes, those procedures should change as well. Because what will happen is you'll lose an employee or the employee will leave for one reason or the other. The new person will come in. And if you don't have those procedures updated and in place, training and replacing that employee could prove quite costly.
So a little bit of due diligence in the beginning and staying on top of that, you're saying is going to save a company, oodles of cash down the road as long as you stay on top of it.
Absolutely. As we know, employee replacement can take can be rather cumbersome, take a lot of time, can cost money as you ramp up a new employee to learn all of the new procedures. But if you make sure that your employees keep those procedures up to date, and I always say you want them to be kept up to date, so if you had to go in and replace any one of your employees, are the procedures there for what their daily tasks are?
Sure.
Yep.
That's some sound advice right there, Tom.
Well, it policies and procedures help to really define and keep some consistency within the workplace. And when you have that consistency, it becomes very easy to address the topics of the various hardware points and software points within the business.
And listen, as more and more companies move to the cloud and really start keeping things stored in different places and not necessarily on local machines, it's really getting important for businesses to stay on top of this because you could forget that you have an employee account at a certain CRM or a cloud account, and they could still have access to it if they leave. So it's just really critical to think this through, to plan it out, and to make sure that you stay on top of this.
That's a great point, Tom. You're absolutely right.
And your company helps with this too, right? I mean,
we do.
You've got to give people advice, and not every business owner understands that they need to be doing this. So I think that's one of the real valuable things you bring to the table is, hey, listen, it's not our first rodeo. Since you're not running all Macs, let me give you a hand and help you exercise some policies and procedures.
That's right. That's right. And if they were all Macs, then I would just throw in the towel because, some 16-year-old kid could just have a run of the place and I wouldn't even know it for a year.
I've heard that happens.
That's just crazy talk, Tom. So if you see a folder called Hacky Hack Hack on your network,
it should raise some eyebrows, shouldn't it?
I tell you, and I immediately thought of my 18-year-old nephew who uses terminology like that. And I thought they must have been watching the same shows as they were
I just
growing
can't
up.
believe that. I can't believe that happened. And it's so crazy. And it was so easy for this 16-year-old individual to do this. And God,
to a $1 trillion
it's
company.
Amazing. It's amazing. But I tell you what, people are doing this every single day, trying to find exploits. And this is why it's so critical that you listen to us and make sure that you stay on top of this stuff because, these little punks are out there trying to always find a hole and infiltrate and either send you a virus or get into your machine and just make your day a real pain in the ass. Tom.
And if they could get into a $1 trillion company that easily, just think about how easily they could get into your data.
Right.
And make that small change to add a password to every piece of data you have. And now you can no longer access any photos, any videos, any documents. That would be a bad day at the office.
All those photos of the in-laws gone.
I could pay for that to happen, but no.
I bet you know a few people that can make that happen.
I've tried a few times, but unfortunately, my wife made sure that the backup system,
Always
she trusted
restored.
but verified our system on the in-laws photos there. And
That's awesome.
Yeah, so trust but verify, everyone. Listen to Reagan. That was one of his solid pieces of advice.
Yes, and tear down that wall. So listen, Tom, it is about time to reach into the mail sack.
All right, here we go. And
What do you got? Who you got? Who's writing us today?
we have Kevin from North Dakota.
Where's North Dakota? Is that by South Dakota?
I've heard. I haven't been up to that area yet, but apparently the interwebs are reaching up there.
They are. I hear it's lovely over there.
Yeah,
North
absolutely.
Dakota.
It's like different temperature, but Kevin was asking, do I need to do any checking on my backups? I think what he's referencing there is, Kevin, if you're doing a backup in any type of solution, be it to an external hard drive, be it to a cloud solution, be it on a piece of software to a tape, whatever it is, you should definitely go through monthly, as I say, at the very least, pick one file. See if you can restore that file or that photo of the in-laws. If the photo of the in-laws doesn't restore, that's
You're
okay.
okay. You're okay.
That's
fine.
right.
Move along.
But if your files and your solid data aren't being restorable, then that's something you should definitely look at before you lose your computer and you're forced to figure out how you're going to get that data back. So Kevin, it's a great point. Look at that now. Make sure that it's restoring. Do a test file restore. And if it doesn't go well, then you've got issues.
And a lot of people have a bit of a false sense of security where they it's okay, I got my files in the cloud. Well, okay, Google, Microsoft, there's a lot of product out there where consumers are using now to use as a file repository. Maybe you're keeping photos of the kids or the in-laws up there. But I think it's really critical too that consumers know you got to back that up too, believe it or not, because God forbid something happens to that Google account or that Outlook account. A hacker finds a way to shut that down. And guess what? You're kind of screwed. So
if you look at the detailed wording from Microsoft, they do not guarantee they can restore your information.
yeah, and that's frightening.
They guarantee that they back up your information, but there is no restore guarantee.
And I think, like I said, there's definitely a false sense of security because you're thinking, hey, it's Google. All my stuff's in Google. What could go wrong with Google?
Yeah,
Well,
and you're right.
stuff goes wrong with Google.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. Well, I've set up the backup. Well, is it backing up the right folders?
Right.
Have you checked that?
Right.
Or is it just backing up your C drive and not the D drive, and you're missing all your files?
So I have 2 tips for that, if I may.
Please.
So I will invest in an external hard drive that will hook up to my Mac or PC, if you will, if you're into all that. So I can back up files to that too. And what I'll do is periodically is back up my downloads and back up my desktop and what have you to, and you can pick up like a 2-3 terabyte drive now for minimal dollars. Like that stuff there's no reason you shouldn't have one.
Absolutely.
So there's that, but there's also a couple routers on the marketplace, like home Wi-Fi connections that you can set as a backup as well. So automatically you can set your Mac in this case to say back up every morning at 8 o'clock, and it just backs up to that particular Wi-Fi device. And certainly I agree with you. You've got to go verify that stuff actually happened, and don't just sit back and think everything's magic.
Exactly. And because what will happen is something will fail, and you'll think, well, no problem. We have a backup of that. And you'll go to look for that QuickBooks file or that family photo of the most recent reunion and realize, oh, wait, that particular area of the desktop wasn't being backed up. It was just our folders off the C drive. So the possibilities for error are great. And so it's best that we keep a set of eyes on that and make sure that what we think is happening is in fact happening.
We got to stay vigilant. We got to know that not everything is always going to work as we want it to, right? So keep those updates happening. Check your policies and procedures, and my goodness, verify your backups. That's really critical. And more importantly, keep your in-law photos on a PC.
That's right. That's right. Tom, I just don't even know where to go with that. We're going to save that for another podcast. As I said, the white flag is flying high over here on the advanced system slide of the table. And
I'm sure you're going to arm up as soon as we leave and have some incriminating more Mac stories after this.
Tom, I'm just waiting for the showdown in O-Town.
Oh, I love it. So listen, thanks so much for writing into the mail sack. Thanks for joining us today, all 14 of you. We are so grateful to spend some time with you, and we hope you found this advice solid. We love it if you just share this with a friend, a colleague, a business owner, the janitor, maybe Aunt Nellie, whoever it is, maybe your bug guy. But share it with everyone you can to get the word out. We're here to help, and we're so grateful for your time. Again, Tom, where can they find you?
They can find us at advancedsystemsolutions.com.
And you can find me. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. You're going there.
I was going to say, and yourself, Tom, at the beautiful On Target's studios here in Maitland, or
you can find me at ontargetdigitalmarketing.com. And if you ever want to get a website built for the in-laws, I'm happy to help with that too. So, but hey, thank you guys so much. We'll talk to you real soon.
Take care.
This podcast was recorded at the On Target Podcasting Studio.